Once more, my name is Russ Gannum. I am Associate Provost and Dean of International Programs at the University of Iowa. So if we could have everyone's attention, please. Okay. We're trying to stay on schedule. Thank you. Okay. So it's my deep pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, but also to talk about the history behind the Joel Barkan Memorial Lecture. And we're delighted to have our dear friend and colleague, Sandy Barkan, here with us. Let's give Sandy a round of applause. Came all the way from DC to be with us, and it's just always a delight to see her and spend time with such a wonderful friend. So Joel Barkan was a scholar of the politics of Africa, who, after his retirement from the University of Iowa in 2005, went on to have a second career in Washington, D.C. as a consultant with the National Endowment for Democracy, the World Bank, and the Agency for International Development. He also served for several years as senior associate for the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, here at the UI, which laid the foundation for what was to become international programs. So basically, I wouldn't be here without the Barkans. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Many of the university's faculty, staff, and administrators knew him, Joel, and Sandy, obviously, as a creative program builder who made lasting contributions to international studies at the university and to the regular discussion in Iowa City of changing political, economic, and social circumstances in the world. UI faculty members who were his colleagues and who teach international studies proposed that Joel Barkan be recognized in a named annual campus lecture, which is what we are going to listen to this afternoon. The first annual Joel Barkan Memorial Lecture was given in 2015. So Joel and his wife, Sandy, are icons of global engagement here at Iowa. And again, we are delighted to see Sandy here with us today. The generosity of Drs. Joel and Sandra Barkan led to the creation of a scholarship for undergraduate students to study abroad in non-Western countries. Sandy has a PhD in comparative literature, which she earned in 1984, and served as a comparative literature professor and associate dean of the Graduate College. And one of the many things that Sandy and I have in common is a love of French literature, and Sandy has taught French literature for several years and is a distinguished scholar in that realm. Apart from her distinguished career, Sandy has been a great colleague and mentor to many of us in international programs and the humanities here at Iowa, and we remain ever grateful for her friendship and support. So the Barkans' international interests derive largely from their undergraduate experiences in Kenya and France. In donating funds for the Study Abroad Scholarship, they hope to help provide similar opportunities for UI students today. Study abroad, they said, is vital for students to understand an increasingly globalized world. And to quote myself, if I'm permitted, Joel and Sandra Barkan should be considered visionaries who understood the importance of global engagement long before it became a staple at institutions of higher learning. Their wisdom and foresight have benefited countless students, faculty, and researchers while making the University of Iowa a leader in global education. Which leads us to the 2025 Joel Barkan Memorial Lecture entitled Powering Partnerships, Amplifying Real-World Impact. So in this keynote, Catherine Chong from Singapore Management University will describe how SMU has made industry engagement a priority for the university. She'll also discuss the strategies it undertook and the success and progress that SMU has achieved to date. In terms of Catherine's bio, she is currently the director of the Office of Industry Engagement at Singapore Management University. She leads the interaction with industry, government, and professional bodies to holistically support their interest to engage the university for its talent, expertise, and technologies. She is responsible for developing the university's industry engagement strategy and fostering meaningful partnerships that support the university's strategic ambitions in creating positive impact throughout the world. Professor Chong comes with more than 18 years of experience in strategic business and development, predominantly in the public sector, such as the Singapore Economic Development Board, or EDB, and the Agency of Science, Technology, and Research, often referred to as ASTAR, which is a driving key industry sector of development and transformation. Professor Chong holds a Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Science with honors from the National University of Singapore, with a minor in techno-entrepreneurship from the University of Pennsylvania. And so Catherine came all the way from Singapore to visit us to deliver this lecture, and I can't think of a more fitting person to deliver the 2025 Joel Barkan Memorial Lecture. Catherine, please feel free to approach the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here today. And I really want to extend my appreciation and thanks to Sandy and the Joel Barkan support, and to the hosts of today's event. It's a great pleasure to fly here all the way from Singapore to be here in Iowa. So any of you have been to Singapore? Can I see a show of hands? Oh, that's good. There are a couple of you. So Singapore is actually not part of China and not part of Malaysia. We're actually a very, very small island city-state off the tip of Malaysia's peninsula. So we are actually only about 284 square miles in size, which is actually about 220 times smaller than Iowa State. So extremely small. But we pack a punch. So Singapore's population right now is at 6.04 million total population. We are the third highest population density in the world. So you can imagine the kind of squeeze that we face in Singapore. And Singapore is actually a very, very young nation. We're only about 60 years old. This year, we're celebrating our 60th anniversary. And it's a very young age, but not as young as Kosovo, but still considered a pretty young nation. And we are actually a small nation with no resources. So in our young government, when they were looking at how to actually develop the country 60 years ago, the key resource that we had was actually only our citizens. So human capital development became a key strategy for the nation's survival. And with that, the government has been investing a lot in the education sector. So in terms of education, we mandated universal primary and secondary education. And today we actually have 97.6% literacy rate, which is a very, very high percentage. Singaporeans, we are bilingual. English is our first language, and we actually take a second language. Typically, it's either Chinese, Mandarin, Malay, or Tamil for the Indian communities. So most of the time, English is the most commonly used language in Singapore. And right now, because of the high investment by the government in education, actually more than 60% of our population actually work in high-skilled employment. And today, actually, Singapore has achieved a lot of global leadership. We are probably one of the highest in terms of literacy, highest in our internet connection speeds. We also enjoy very long life expectancies, low infant mortality rates, and one of the lowest levels of corruption in the world. So these are all achievements that Singapore has achieved over the past 6 years. And because national education is a national strategy for us, we have actually been investing a lot in preparing our workforce. So as the country developed, we have also adopted our education strategies in ensuring that all our graduates actually can better seamlessly enter into the workforce. We also started looking at supporting our professional workforce in continuing education, which is actually one of the key drivers of supporting reskilling and upskilling in Singapore. So we have a lot of support from the government in providing employment reskilling. And Singapore actually is fast becoming a super aged society. By next year, 1 in 5 citizens is going to be the age of 65 and above. And by 2030, 1 in 4 will be at the age of 65 and above. So we are an extremely aged society, and we need to look at how we are going to maintain our competitiveness with the shrinking workforce. So enabling mature workers and help them stay engaged and contribute to the economy has also become a very important priority for our government. So Singapore's strategy for education, we actually right now have 6 autonomous universities. The first 2 are the National University of Singapore, or NUS, and the Nanyang Technological University, NTU. They are our most established and comprehensive universities in Singapore, having our medicine and engineering schools. So after the 2 universities, SMU was actually the 3rd university to be set up in Singapore 25 years ago. And SMU was actually born out of a very different perspective, because as our earlier universities were following the United Kingdom kind of methodology of deep learning in single disciplines, SMU wanted to take a breakthrough approach to education, which I'll share a little bit more. Since then, we have actually put on 3 more universities, bringing the total number of autonomous universities to 6 in Singapore, supporting the 6 million population that we have here. Next up, instead of hearing how SMU has achieved the 25 years of successes, I'm going to show you a short video of how we have been doing it so far.
In 1997, before SMU was actually set up, I was asked to meet up with Dr. Tony Tan, who was then the Deputy PM. We want to start a new university that would be different from the other 2.
At Wah Chang House, Chairman Ho Kwon Peng's office, we occupied the ground floor.
There wasn't a proper meeting room, so whenever we needed to have any discussions, we would trot down to the coffee shop just down the road. Thereafter, we moved over to Gobel Towers at Scotts Road.
One single building to welcome the first batch of students. And the first physical teaching premises we had was in Botanical Gardens.
I remember one of the particular lesson by Kirpal Singh. Talk to the tree and come back and tell us what the tree said back to you. He challenges you to leave all that behind and use what you can find in the corners of your mind to solve the challenges you face in your accounting and business.
That temporary building was such a sad facility in the Evans Road car park. But we had our first president, Janice Balachi, was there. President Nathan came by.
We operated 2-3 years, then we occupied the Bukit Timah campus. This is 5 to 7 years.
In the very first year, we did have our own student canteen. My friends did what they got together to set up an on-campus catering service. Even in our leadership and team building activities, we each had to do a community project.
During that time, all the SMU staff were extremely collaborative, entrepreneurial spirit, which I'm very heartened to see that it is carrying through to SMU's DNA right till today. It finally felt like coming home, where we have our own buildings, our own campus where we can conduct our classes from.
We wanted to have not only business, it would eventually be the management of the arts, management of healthcare, anything that deals with management, and that it would be a specialized university.
common response from the working world is that our students are articulate and confident.
In management trainee roles, so they moved around the different divisions and departments in my business. They were full of ideas on what could be done differently, what could be done more efficiently.
I've always been drawn to both economics and computer science, and SMU stood out for its unique blend of both within a four-year framework. The flexibility to explore these fields and shape my future made it the perfect choice.
SMU has a lot of opportunities for each and every one of us to take part in, and that contributes to the vibrant student life that we have. We have many co-curricular activities which students can take part in. We have over 150 for students to learn different skills, make new friends.
I think SMU was way more successful than what we had expected. But it wasn't only because of us. It was because Singapore at that time was ready for change among its young people, its approach to education, and we were at the right time.
In the world of tomorrow, we need people who can think laterally, who have cognitive skills, who have intellectual curiosity. We need to recognize that education will increasingly be lifelong. What has defined SMU over these years has been a capacity to create world-ready citizens, to create students who are job-ready. And we've done that by being innovative and transformative in our education style. There are a few things that we intend on trying to do to achieve our vision of being a global city university at the nexus of management, social sciences, and technology. I'm confident that we have the DNA and we have what it takes to continue to be as successful in the coming 25 years as we have been in the last 25.
As we celebrate SMU's 25th anniversary, we reflect on how far we've come. From a bold idea in Singapore's educational landscape to a vibrant, engaged city university driving meaningful change locally and globally. I extend my deepest gratitude to everyone who has contributed to SMU's growth. Pioneer leaders, trustees, faculty, staff, students, alumni, and our valued partners. Looking ahead, our new vision focuses on driving innovation and transcending boundaries by nurturing independent, lifelong learners, empowering change agents, and enabling world-class research with societal impact. With strong partnerships across Asia and the world, we are poised to expand SMU's legacy as a transformative leader in education. Here's to the next 25 years.
Congratulations to SMU on your 25th anniversary. We are all very proud of how far SMU has come and how much it has achieved over the last 25 years. We first started SMU to provide a different model of university education. Since then, with your unwavering commitment to education excellence, SMU has innovated its teaching pedagogy and discovered new ways of bridging theory and practice to nurture global-ready graduates. The quality of your graduates speaks volumes about the education and values instilled at SMU. Our world faces increasingly complex issues that require interdisciplinary and often transboundary solutions such as in aging, sustainability, and AI. SMU is well placed to tackle these challenges. I encourage SMU to continue to deepen your linkages and connections with industry partners, tighten the nexus between academia and industry, and make impactful societal contributions across Asia and beyond. To all SMU staff, students, and alumni, thank you all for your invaluable contributions to Singapore. SMU is not just a university in the center of our city. My wish is for SMU to be at the center of transformation in our city and others, and harness its strengths and partnerships to be a gateway to the region and beyond.
SMU has grown and established itself as a trailblazer in university education, known for its entrepreneurial spirit and remarkable drive for innovation. Over the years, SMU has cultivated a community that thrives on bold ideas, resilience, and the pursuit of excellence. Congratulations to everyone, faculty, staff, students, and alumni who have contributed to SMU's inspiring journey.
there you have it. I have to admit, this video wasn't made specifically for you to hear about how SMU engages industry. But yet, when you look at how we have developed this video, which was actually released just a couple of weeks ago to mark our 25th anniversary during our SMU's Patrons Day, that was graced by our President Tharman Shanmugaratnam, it was also a showcase of how SMU has been engaging industry as an integral part of how the university functions. And with that, I wanted to share that SMU was actually a very, very bold experiment in the university landscape. Unlike the earlier two universities, SMU was the first publicly funded university, but privately managed university in Singapore. We have a board of trustees that are made up of distinguished industry leaders, and it was a way where we envisioned how we wanted to change the landscape of education to support industry development. Our approach was very simple: to be interdisciplinary, interactive, and internationally oriented. We actually looked at a lot of different models in the world when we were looking back at how we wanted to establish SMU. So in terms of pedagogy, we actually looked at the American style of education, and we actually modeled after the Wharton School of Business, which is a very small seminar style kind of teaching model. It's very unlike the Asian culture. If you've been to Asia, you know that Singaporeans tend to be very quiet and typically do not speak out during class. But because of this model that we adopted, it actually forces that engagement, that interactivity, and actually supports students to be a lot more critical in their thinking when they actually speak up. So it was actually a benefit for a lot of students in Singapore that underwent the SMU pedagogy. Oops. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, industry integration was a very integral part of what we do. All of our curriculum is designed hand in hand with industry partners, so that all of the graduates actually are well prepped to actually step into the workforce. We actually are the first university to actually mandate that internships are part of the graduating requirements, meaning if you do not take an internship, you cannot graduate from SMU. And SMU is the only campus that is physically located in the heart of the city. Beside all the businesses, that actually allows the engagement with the businesses in the campus area. And that actually provides a lot more interaction for the students to work with the various companies that are around the campus. So while SMU is a specialist business school, we don't actually do very well in the traditional ranking. But we have done exceeding well in achieving global rankings for some of our programs, such as our accountancy, wealth management, and engineering programs. We also hold leading positions in Asia for some of our other programs as well. And as I mentioned earlier, industry is actually part of the DNA of SMU. So within SMU's a hierarchy and organization, our board of trustees is made up of distinguished leaders that actually manage the university. If you saw the video earlier, our chairman, Piyush Gupta, he is actually the group CEO of DBS Bank. And he is helmed and supported by many other industry leaders from Bain & Co., from BlackRock, and many other companies holding senior positions. So that's one. And then all our schools and colleges are again advised by a school advisory board, again made up of distinguished leaders to advise and support the curriculum development of each school, so that we are deeply entrenched in supporting the needs of industry. Because Singapore is a very, very small country, Asia is actually a very, very important part of Singapore's competitiveness. As such, we also network with our regional players. We have actually also developed our international advisory councils. We have 7 to date in China, in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, and they are actually again made up of all the leading leaders, industry leaders that can actually help our university to expand into the region and make sure that our students, our graduates are regionally exposed and understand the nuance, the culture in the different markets. And just to share, over the past 20 years, we have actually been incorporating many initiatives to support and engage with industry. For example, in 2001, I mentioned earlier, we have actually mandated compulsory internships for students before they can graduate. And then afterwards, we also incorporated various practice institutions that directly addresses specific industry needs. So in 2005, we worked with UOB Bank, United Overseas Bank in Singapore to set up the Asian Enterprise Institute. So this actually is a group of student consultancy that actually supports the SMEs, the small, medium enterprises in Singapore that make up the majority of our industry players, to support them in advisory that most SMEs may not be able to afford with all the big advisory firms. So we do that, leveraging on our students for them to translate their knowledge straight into industry. We also set up our International Trading Institute in 2007, and it is the first trading institute to be set up within a university to support the commodities trading and the maritime industry. In 2008, we also established the Financial Economics Institution to support Singapore's strategic economy and the region. In 2013, we also established our Business Family Institute to serve the family business that is predominant in our region. 10 years ago, in 2015, that's when we launched our flagship program called the SMU X program, where X stands for experiential. This is an award-winning program that we have where we directly translate the learnings of the students into business solutions. What happens is companies are invited to actually share a challenge, a business challenge for our students, where the students will actually work on projects in developing solutions for the companies at the end of the project term. And this actually gives students the direct application of their knowledge straight into industry solutioning. And because of such an opportunity, there are actually a lot of companies that actually want to come onto this program. And sometimes companies have to wait up to a year before they can get a slot to do an SMU X project with our students. So this is an extremely interesting program to support experiential learning and direct translation of academia into real business solutions. In 2017, with the need for reskilling and upskilling of the workforce, we also set up our professional education arm, our SMU Academy. So this academy actually provides professional training for the workforce, where we actually tap on the government's support to actually support the upskilling in various disciplines for all the different companies. And Singaporeans will get to enjoy a subsidy to take on some of this program. And the success of the academy can be seen because of the large market share that we hold in Singapore, about 45% to date. In 2018, we also work with Mapletree, which is a leading real estate company in Singapore, to establish a real estate program in SMU. In 2022, we also launched the Skills Future Work Study degree. The work study degree is an interesting concept because it is actually an extended internship or apprenticeship with a company. This allows more integration of classroom learning right into the real world setting, where companies are heavily involved in providing structured internships for our students, where more than 30% of the curriculum is actually an internship. And that actually gives the real world experience for our graduates to step into the workforce when they graduate. We also launched two new colleges, the College of Integrative Studies and the College of Graduate Research Studies. The College of Integrative Studies is the first in Singapore to offer individualized majors. So this is actually first in Singapore and first in Asia. Of course, I understand US actually does offer some of this. But for us, it is something really new. And what we do is we actually engage industry very closely because we want to make sure that any individualized major that a student might want to take actually has a job when they actually graduate from the university. So every student in the College of Integrative Studies is actually matched with an industry mentor, which allows them to actually understand the skills needed in the future. There could be skills right now that you need, but in 5 years down the road, the skills needed in our new world will be vastly different. And that perspective, we need to make sure we engage industry closely to ensure that there are new jobs that can be created for such students. And this is also the year where we started expanding out of Singapore. We launched our first overseas center in Jakarta, in Indonesia, to build our regional ecosystem. They serve as our regional embassies to actually connect with the local communities and businesses. They help us to reach out and support and partner them in creating societal impact. In 2023, we also introduced our first stackable masters. This allows the BC workforce professionals to be able to stack on their various education to earn their own masters. We also launched our sustainability programs for our undergraduates and postgraduates. Again, it is now a mandatory requirement that all students take on at least one sustainability course before they can graduate, because sustainability is such an important piece in Asia, because we are urbanizing rapidly and the need to maintain a sustainable growth is very, very important for us. We also launched our second overseas center in Thailand. Last year, we launched our Urban Institute, also in response to the needs of our region to tackle the city growth, urbanization, to make sure that we can continue to grow sustainably. And lastly, our last overseas center in Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, which then brings us to 3 overseas centers in less than 2 years, which is a big feat for a small university like us to be able to be represented in so many countries in the region. And we will continue to expand. So SMU has been cultivating very, very strong partnerships over the past 25 years. So where do I come in? SMU has been leading many, many partnerships, but as we grow, so did our partnerships. And there was starting the needs of pressures to actually need to manage some of these engagements, because there wasn't an office or department that can actually bring some of our partnerships to the next level, which is why my office was actually established in 2002 to actually serve the needs of a central coordination to support some of the partnerships from being very opportunistic to be a lot more coordinated. What we do in our office is really to build enablers for industry engagement. A lot of times, there are many engagements out there, but there may not be official platforms where our faculty and staff can actually reach out to the industry. So we are developing many of these initiatives and platforms to support our colleagues to access industry stakeholders. And of course, being the central office coordinating many of the strategic partnerships, we also serve to actually step up our engagement to build strategic partnerships with our industry stakeholders to support our education and research. And last but not least, we also serve to amplify SMU's reputation in the industry, such as going through very targeted industry channels to amplify our branding and knowledge thought leadership. First of all, when I first joined SMU, one of the key things that we tried to do was to look at how partnerships was coordinated. A lot of times, the key challenge that companies face in engaging a university is who do they call? What kind of partnership is available in the university? And if they actually open up the website of the university, a lot of time you may not be able to find exactly what are the partnership opportunities. They could be deeply embedded in many of the different pages, or may not be even put up on the website at all, because as most universities' websites are catered for, are usually to the prospective students and their parents. So what we did as a first step was to develop a targeted website to support the navigation of partnerships for our industry stakeholders. We call it the Partnership Concierge. On our main website, we have now the new Partnerships tab, where companies can directly link to the page to actually look at all the various partnership opportunities across SMU. What we did was to list every different department that has an opportunity to engage with industry onto this platform so that they can be properly profiled and companies can, in a glance, see all the opportunities available. So we have a very tailored user interface that supports for industry partnerships and for our university partnerships. And this is the opportunities directory that I was mentioning earlier, where we pull in and categorize all the various partnerships that we have across SMU all onto one page. And this really serves to provide the navigational, automatic self-help navigation for companies to see at a glance what we can do together. And that actually helped a lot of offices to actually surface some of these partnership opportunities that they never had before. And that helped to directly interested parties to their offices through the click on this page. And that actually also serves to save us time in picking up calls and asking who do you want to talk to, who do you want to reach out to, and they can actually do it all on just one page. And we also do a partnership spotlight to showcase a lot of our partnerships with our industry stakeholders, to showcase that we have actually a lot of partnership in existence across and some of the successes that we have with them. We also showcase some of our upcoming events that were tailored for industry, meaning if there was an event that is open to industry to attend, they can actually at a glance look at only those that are relevant for them to engage our students. On the other hand, it was also very important to service our staff and faculty. So we mirrored the same concept and developed what we call the Partnership Resource Hub. The Partnership Resource Hub was actually a way for us to also support our internal staff and colleagues to understand what are the opportunities and resources available to them. We put together all engagement resources, our marketing decks, our presentation slides, our policies and guidelines, contracts, branding guidelines, all onto one page. So for once, everybody is aligned in what they need to do to engage industry. That serves to help coordinate how we engage industry in a more consistent and standardized manner. We also have our future events planner that allows all of us to come together to work on engagement activities. This also serves to deduplicate a lot of the efforts that different faculty, schools, and units may be doing and work on them together to amplify the outreach through some of these platforms. We also share a lot of the engagements that we have because as a central coordinator, how do we actually share some of these opportunities of the companies that we engage throughout the university? One way is through this partners list, where we share all our engagement and seek interest from the rest of the university to partake in some of these engagements. That will help a lot in amplifying and expanding partnership opportunities across the university. And this is the industry opportunity list that they can then look through to see which are the companies that they want to work with. And with that, over the past 2 years, I think we have actually created a lot of successful engagement with our industry stakeholders, and we are excited to actually build more. In the next 25 years, our vision is really to serve societal impact, be able to create more meaningful engagements with our industry stakeholders, and hopefully be able to step up our engagement and support for industry solutioning. With that, I thank you, all of you, for your time. Thank you. I'm open to have some questions.
Yes, so we have about 10 minutes. Happy to entertain questions from the audience. Well, please, Gedwar, go ahead.
That was a great presentation. It's so much good work that you've done there, and that's basically something that we were trying on we're doing in Kosovo together with Professor Cassie and the team here. I hope you're hearing me. Sorry. Okay. And I think there are lots of interventions that you've done there that the universities in Kosovo can also do so that we can get closer to our in partnership with the private sector. My question is, I saw you had lots of events. I wanted to know if you are organizing such events to bring the industry, or are you empowering students as well through student-led communities or anything like that?
So we are actually established as a university level partnership office. So what we do is we facilitate the holistic opportunity across SMU, be it from the student engagement part of things, be it from the professional development side of things, be it for engaging our faculty for their expertise and thought leadership, for the technologies, and for our access networks into the region. So technically, when we work with our industry stakeholders, we are kind of like the one-stop shop to support their business solutioning. Instead of being opportunistic and transactional in supporting in internships or specific agendas, we actually sit down with our industry stakeholders to understand their short, medium, and long-term goals, and then comprehensively work with them to develop a proposal of how we can support them in their entire talent development framework, where we can look at the talent development needs of the companies, to their training of their existing staff, to deal with the dynamic changes of AI and other challenges that they face in the companies, to solutioning how we can bring in our various faculties to the same page to address specific needs of the company. So in a way, we are targeted in engaging the companies for a holistic solution.
Thank you, Catherine. That was really interesting. It seems almost like this is an experiment and a successful experiment. And I was wondering if there were examples of practices that were pioneered by SMU that have been transferred to other higher education institutions in Singapore.
So as they say, imitation is the best form of flattery. So my office was only set up about 2 years ago, in late 2022. And I've heard other universities are going to set up similar offices as well. So yeah, I think that showcased the importance of our role in SMU.
Catherine, thank you so much for your comments. I'm wondering if you could just describe the sort of human resources associated with managing the infrastructure that you all have set up. That it feels big. If you could just describe that.
Thanks for looking at it as if it was really big. But to be honest, we are very, very lean. When I joined, I was the only person. And then I slowly built up my team. I have 6 staff with me right now. And the idea is for our office to stay as a lean team, because our role is really not to manage everybody's partnership, because SMU has grown into a stage where many of our offices are already very well run in terms of engaging the industries, right? They have their own sales team, they have their own engagement platforms, and it wasn't a case of bringing everybody into my office. But our role is really to step up in coordination of strategic partnerships, where we can help coordinate some of these engagements and pass on through to all our other offices that can then secure some of these partnerships. So for example, if talent development was a key priority for one of our strategic partners, we may be working very closely with our career teams in terms of the engagement of students and internship programs. And we will also work very closely with our professional training arms, like the SMU Academy I mentioned earlier, as well as our executive development teams that service leadership development programs for leadership in various companies. So we typically work very closely with all our other offices in supporting the advancement of all of these partnerships. So in a way, I am kind of like the middleman, the bridge to bring all the different offices together and pulling our strategic partner to work together towards a common goal.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question on that? Are you all funded exclusively by central funds from the university, or do you have any co-funding from the private sector?
Unfortunately, we are not funded by the private sector. We are funded by the university.
Sandy and then Philip.
Yeah, sorry. 2 different kinds of questions. You mentioned that there were corporations, businesses, industries that were having to wait for a year or so to be admitted. What kind of application process is there? What do they have to do to get into your program and what others have? And then a kind of follow-up to the question that was just asked. If the students are all doing internships, is their tuition being paid by some of these industries? Are students paying their own tuition? How is that?
So just to answer the second question first, because it's faster. Yes, they are paid internship stipends by the company that employs them. So it's almost like a normal internship. It's just that it's way extended and it's highly structured if you're talking about the work-study degrees, where students actually work up to 30% of their curriculum with the company. So those are worked together with the government in developing such degrees. So we actually engage with the government support, we engage specific companies to design the degrees where we actually look at certain emerging needs of the industry to train. So for example, one of our work study degrees is actually for private banking. So that's where we actually work with the various private banks to develop the curriculum for the talent needed. So the banks actually work with us and the government stakeholders in structuring and designing the kind of internships that's needed for the students to actually, have that structured classroom as well as internship process together. Back to your first question, which I think you're referring to our SMU X program. So because the SMU X program is kind of like a free program where businesses can just walk in and say, hey, I have a business challenge. Can I have your students help me to find some solutions and ideas to it? And because there is so much interest to tap on our student population to actually run some of these projects, sometimes dependent on the popular courses that may have a lot of companies that want to kind of like come on to work with the students, the wait time may drag as long as a year. But most of the time, they should be able to slot you in the upcoming semester, where basically within a class, there could be 5 business challenges posed by 5 different companies, and the students will be broken up into 5 groups to then work on it throughout the semester to actually develop the solution. And at the end of the semester, what the student will do is to present some of these solutions to the companies. And many times that gives the companies a flavor of the kind of talent that we are developing in SMU. And of course, the solution is, of course, also a benefit that it could potentially adopt and implement within their companies. A lot of times, because the SMU X program is such an engaging experiential learning process, many actually end up getting hired by the company because the companies have a first-hand experience seeing how the students were able to come up with the business solutions without being in the company. And that gives them that confidence of our talent's quality. And most of the time, majority do end up with those companies at the end of the year. Thank you. So I didn't show the statistics of our student population, but we are highly international. But because we are a publicly funded university, there is a cap on international students at the undergraduate level. So I think it's up to 10% that we can have international students for our undergraduates, but we have a wide variety, more than 30 different countries of international students that study in SMU. But at the postgraduate level, there is no cap. So that's where majority of our student population are actually international. And again, they come from all over the world. To your second question on sustainability, I kind of like just mentioned that in particular, but actually in our Vision 2025, which is this year, what I showed you earlier was our refreshed mission that was launched a couple of weeks ago. In our Vision 2025, there were 3 strategic priorities that the school undertook to ensure that we were very well geared to address some of the business and national agenda that's relevant for Singapore and the region. And those 3 areas were sustainable living, which I mentioned, digital transformation was the second, and the third was actually growth in Asia. As I mentioned earlier, Singapore is a very small country, and Asia is a very, very important market for us, which is why the importance of not just building global ready graduates, but the ability of our students to be deeply aware of the rich cultural and diversity of the whole Asia region is also very important, so that global companies that do want to expand in Asia can have that kind of insights into Asia with just a graduate from SMU. So these were the 3 strategic priorities that we were focusing on. And that actually translated into a lot of the curriculum that we developed that must have a component in one of the 3 strategic priorities. So those are thematic areas, but of course, when we do work with industry, they would be specific to the industry challenges, which could be perhaps more on, say, on digital transformation. In terms of sustainability, actually, there are a lot of companies that are also focusing on how they actually address sustainable challenges. So what's happening in Asia right now is there's going to be a implementation of policies that requires sustainability reporting for a lot of the companies in Singapore. And that would mean that every company must be well equipped to address some of these challenges that the Singapore and the region is facing. And then that becomes a business imperative to address whether or not they are going to be a lot more profitable. But it is going to be an important part of how businesses are going to operate in the future.
Yes, please, back.
You mentioned having 3 overseas centers, and I was curious if that's related to specifically your office as far as finding internships, or if they serve a different purpose, maybe related to recruitment or such.
So our overseas centers are very lean. It's typically run by 1 director and probably 1 or 2 local staff. So it's not going to be like a full-fledged satellite of SMU. What they do is they serve as embassies to represent SMU in the local community. Our local offices will be the one that engages the business community and the government stakeholders in sharing what SMU has to offer, as well as exchange knowledge and insights with the various local business community to serve the needs of building the understanding of the community and find ways that we can actually expand our influence into the region.
Thank you for your excellent presentation. Based on your presentation for Singapore Management University year by year create new institutes and new research centers. I want to know these research centers and institutes, how are connected or cooperate with industry through your central, your office of industrial engagement or via advisory boards?
So our research institutions are set up by sometimes with named donors. So if you saw some of the earlier institutions, they could be named institutions that were specific endowments to actually advance specific business needs. So for example, our Business Family Institute has a strong focus on addressing family businesses' needs in the region. And that essentially then means that a lot of the work that is done has direct implications in helping family businesses in their succession, governance, and wealth maintenance. So each of the institution has a specific mandate to support the different types of needs of the various industries.
Okay, I think with that, we'll need to conclude. My hope is that the conversation can continue on with the discussion. Please, let's give Catherine.
Thank you.